Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast, bringing you the latest in sports news, fantasy analysis, and opinions. Don't forget the hot takes. Can't have a sports show without hot takes these days. What about hot cakes, though? I want some hot cakes. Now, here's your host, ready to jump into the thick of things, Dwayne Callender.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Gonna keep going on with the baseball breakdown preview. Just because we're getting closer to the season and, frankly, not a whole lot of time, to be honest, with the amount of sports that are still going on. But let's get right to it in terms of the baseball fantasy ranking. So, for a quick recap of the top 10, I had Ronald Acuna, Christian Yelich, Mr. Trout, Mookie Betts, followed by the next tier of Cody Bellinger at 5. Then 6, 7, and 8 are interchangeable between Trevor Story, Francisco Lindor, and Trey Turner. Number 9, I've got Mr. Juan Soto. And at 10, Fernando Tatis Jr. For more details, you can check out my prior episode that went over the top 10. Right now, we're going to go through the rest of the top 25. So without much further ado, let's get to number 11 and Mr. Nolan Arenado of the Colorado Rockies. Now, this is another candidate for bust potential, but got to put him in there because of it's Nolan Arenado. You don't walk away from 40 home run potential and a 300 batting average easily. Here's the thing with Arenado. He's pissed off with the Rockies. He wants a trade. They're not giving it to him. Eventually, the Rockies are going to have to move Arenado. It would be absolutely franchise suicide not to move Arenado, given his displeasure with how the organization's being run and his level of frustration. They're not winning. He wants to win. He wants to get out of there. Sooner or later, they're going to have to move him. So I think it's an inevitable situation. The only thing to be concerned about is the fact that if they let it drag on and he starts to mentally check out, that's when you could start getting a little bit worried about what's his production going to be like. Is he going to outproduce someone along the lines of an Anthony Rizzo or a Matt Olson? You know, it could easily happen where Arenado doesn't live up to expectations if he's not moved. If he moves, he's going to rake the entire year. If he stays for an extended period of time in Colorado, yeah, there's a very high risk of Arenado checking out by late July and just phoning it in if he's not traded. I would be stunned if the Rockies managed to screw this up, but, you know, teams have done dumb things in the past, so I can't be entirely shocked, but it would just be so irresponsible of a franchise to do it this way. All right, number 12. And no longer on the defending champion Washington Nationals, we've gotten Anthony Rendon. Rendon follows Arenado right behind at third base, and, you know, to be honest, he signed a $245 million deal with Anaheim. The Angels, who have, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Don't get me started. Again, these geniuses, you know, signed Anthony Rendon for a 7-year deal at $245 million when, you know, Steven Strasburg signed for $245 million with the Nationals, and the Angels need pitching in the worst way possible.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
You know, I'm still speechless as to what the Angels' strategy is, because they're in the same division as the Astros and the A's, don't have a pitching staff, yet, yes, would Rendon help the offense? Yes. Would it help Mike Trout? Yes. Would having a healthy Ohtani help? Yes. Can Albert Pujols still be somewhat productive even at his advanced years, wreaking havoc on his body? Yes. But you don't have any pitching to justify that offense. Like, you essentially became a lower tier version of the Texas Rangers teams. But even the Rangers, when they were making their deep playoff runs about a decade ago, still had some measure of pitching. Like, the Angels don't have pitching. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, they don't even have a number 2 starter. Like, let alone a number 1 starter. They don't even have a real number 2 starter. So, again, one of the most perplexing off seasons I can think of, because it's not like I hate Anthony Rendon. He's going to do well out in L.A. or Anaheim, whatever. But, 300 batting average, not as many home runs as Arenado, so he slots in behind. Can he hit 33 to 35 home runs? Yeah. Can he hit 40? Probably not, but the potential's there. So I like Rendon. He's going to put up numbers, but is this team going to win anything? Probably not. Like I said, love the Angels' off-season moves, because it's just one of those biggest head scratchers where it's just like, whoa, what? Seriously.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
No one knows. No one knows. Anyway, moving on. We got number 13 on deck with Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians. Now, Jose was one of the biggest busts of last season and killed a number of my fantasy teams. He was a top 10 pick. I put him in there. But here's the thing. It was the worst case scenario. Was barely a 250 hitter. Hit a bunch of bombs. Stole some bases. Still, that's good enough to be in the top 20. Because guess what? If you can steal 25 bags and hit 25 home runs, you're still going to be in the top 20. That's how much steals are a premium in fantasy baseball, given the fact that no one steals anymore and stolen base specialists are going the way of the dinosaurs. People may try to slot Ramirez outside of the top 20. That's a mistake. He still can run. He can still swipe bags. So as long as that's happening, he's in there. And guess what? If he turns it around and starts hitting for a little bit more average and get the power numbers back on, if he hits 270 and hits 30 bombs and steals 25 bags, guess what? He's a top 10 player again. Like, realistically, it's like you could flip him and Tatis together, and that would not be shocking at all in terms of performance. So you're really going to be splitting hairs with some of these guys in this tier, because they can easily perform at a top 10 level. It's just there's a little bit of a hitch with some of these players, but not a whole lot. But moving on, we're going to get to our next guy up at 14. Freddie Freeman at 14 seems like a pick that most will ignore, mainly because there's nothing sexy about Freddie Freeman. Well, you know what I mean. It is, in terms of overall fantasy production, he's never going to wow you in terms of the stats. He'll hit his 300 batting average. He'll be mid-20s in terms of home runs. RBIs will be over 100, but nothing too dramatic or crazy. But in terms of level consistency, plug him in at first base, you'll be fine. Now, I know folks are going to be asking, Dwayne, why aren't you ranking Pete Alonso higher than Freddie Freeman? Because there's a good chance Pete Alonso will crush whatever Freddie Freeman does. I like Alonso, but sophomore slump is very real. I know it didn't happen for some players, but Pete Alonso, the league should be able to adjust to him, even though he's got 50 homer power. So I'm sliding Alonso down almost as I'm sliding down Bregman. So we're going to get to Pete Alonso in a bit, but not yet. So 14, Freddie Freeman, safer play than going the route of an Anthony Rizzo or Chris Bryant. Just plug him in. You'll be fine from a production standpoint. Just don't get too excited because, I mean, the definition of Freddie Freeman is probably constipating, if anything else. He'll get it done. Just don't expect wonders. Number 15, we have one of the broiest bros to ever grace a baseball field. Probably the biggest bro to ever grace a baseball field, if you really think about it. In Bryce Harper. Man, oh man, was 2019 a brutal, brutal year. Year one, massive contract, Philly. What could possibly go wrong? Oh man, Bryce. Killing fantasy teams left and right last year. It could not have gone. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong for Bryce Harper did go wrong in 2019 because he stayed healthy and still could not hit to save his life in Philadelphia and constantly was booed. Here's the thing. He's got 40 home run potential. He can hit 280 plus. There's no doubt that it could happen. Now, is he gonna be a 280 hitter? Probably not. He's probably gonna be somewhere around the 260 mark that it was last year. But the power numbers should trend up quite a bit. Again, that first year of a massive contract definitely played a role. He was pressing. Everyone could tell he's pressing. I think year two in the contract, you're actually going to see Bryce Harper play like a top 10 player again. So that's why I've got him at 15. Realistically, I'd rank him higher, but there is the possibility of Bryce Harper completely implodes in Philly, and this turns into a massive sell job for year three where he's technically on the open market with an untradeable contract and an increasingly messy situation in Philadelphia to manage. But for now, Bryce Harper, number 15. Let's keep moving and get to number 16, which is the latest addition to the New York Yankees and the most expensive addition to the New York Yankees, and Garrett Cole for quite some time because Mr. Cole, making $324 million as a pitcher, broke the bank this offseason. And honestly, I think this is too high of a ranking, but I got to have a starting pitcher in here somewhere. And Garrett Cole is the guy I would at least put the money on to do some damage from a strikeout perspective because of how good his stuff is. And I have some question marks on some of the other top tier starters given their ages. So let's just be blunt. You want younger starting pitchers this year, but you also want pitchers that can strike people out. Cole fits both bills. So Garrett Cole, gotta go with him in number 16 in terms of the rankings. But is there a very big worry in terms of the pick that he's not going to live up to expectations of the Yankee contract? Oh, without question. But in terms of numbers that Garrett Cole had, he led the majors in swinging strike rate at 16.8%. He had the second lowest contact amongst the pitchers going up against batters. And he had the best fastball wins above average at 36 wins. So basically, it was the best overall rated fastball since the year 2000. No one else that was technically in the top 10 for fastballs had a win percentage well, actually, I screwed that stat up. It was his, actually, no, I did get that stat right. No one else had a wins above average, greater than 11, except for Cole as well, but that was with his slider, which was rated as a 13. Basically, Garrett Cole put on a performance from a pitching standpoint that was one of the best overall statistically in the last 20 years of baseball. So from a sabermetric standpoint, the Yankees shouldn't do anything to change him. If anything, if the Yankees start tweaking him more to throw more sliders, it's probably a sign of how much the Yankees system needs to be revamped. Now, with the new pitching coach, Matt Blake, Holy Cross grad, actually close to my year, actually, Mr. Blake was. But anyway, neither here nor there. The long and short of it is the fact that if you think about some of the worst trades in baseball history, the Pirates got Joe Musgrove, Michael Felix, Colin Moran for Garrett Cole. The amount of players the Yankees offered the Pirates for Garrett Cole compared to what they got from the Astros, that should be investigated by Major League Baseball more than any of the sign stealing, because that will go down as one of the worst trades in baseball history. The Pirates also traded Tyler Glasnow for Chris Archer. The Pirates are one of the worst run teams in baseball. If anything, the Pirates are the worst run team in baseball. Somehow, because of the Mets and their backstory, the Mets get tagged with that label, but it's really the Pirates. Because with the amount of talent that the Pirates had, how they managed to completely bungle Andrew McCutchen's absolute prime will go down as one of the most perplexing things ever, considering this is also a franchise that had Barry Bonds in his prime. But what are you going to do? Baseball has their have and have-nots, and then they have have-nots that decide that even when they do have stuff, that they're going to give it away for pennies on the dollar. But neither here nor there. Garrett Cole, first pitcher off the board, number 16. Let's keep it moving. Number 17. The Polar Bear Express, Pete Alonso. Mets fans have a lot to be excited about. Mainly because of this man. Because he literally looks like a caveman. Has a nickname of a polar bear. Hits home runs in excess of 400 plus feet because he hit 53 home runs and averaged over a 410 feet per home run. Like, basically, Alonso would be the equivalent of Captain America for the Mets. They were in the wilderness, to be perfectly honest, because you lost David Wright due to spinal stenosis multiple years ago, had no identity for a franchise, and out of nowhere, Alonso comes and actually starts showing power that, while yes, some scouts thought he had, not this much in spades. Alonso could easily be in the same category as a Cody Bellinger. I'm probably ranking him too low at 17. Now that I'm looking at these rankings again. But, again, sophomore slump is entirely possible. Teams should be pitching around Alonso and testing the other Mets players. So that's why I'm knocking him down, because realistically, why would you continue to pitch to Pete Alonso at this point when he crushes fastballs? It doesn't make any sense. But then again, no one ever accused the baseball managers of being the smartest guys in the room. Next up, we got number 18 in J.D. Martinez, or as I like to call him, J. Diesel. Basically, the Diesel had another MVP-type campaign in Boston last year. Obviously, losing Mookie Betts is going to hurt his numbers a bit, but Martinez is still going to rake over 30-plus bombs, driving 100 RBIs. Again, the only question with the Diesel is, can he stay healthy? And he has the last couple of years. The one thing that people worry about is, what's his position eligibility? Now, I've got him ranked 18th, but if he qualifies for an outfield spot, take him ahead of Harper. It's like, if Martinez is going to qualify for outfield, depending on the settings of your league, it's a better play than Bryce Harper. Now, could it be that Bryce hits more home runs? But Martinez is absolutely going to hit for a higher batting average and driving just as many RBIs and score as many runs. So it's a safer play taking Martinez if he's going to get the outfield eligibility. If it's just a DH only spot, then yeah, 18 is fine as is. But I just wanted to put that caveat out there because, I know folks have had differing opinions on Martinez, but it depends on your league. If he's qualifying for outfield, he should be easily ranked near the top 10 without question. I don't even think that there should be much of a debate about it. Moving on to number 19. We're going to get to another individual on the Red Sox, and that being Rafael Devers. Third base has a lot of, it's got a lot of power, and Devers is no exception. 30 bombs, 100 RBIs, potentially a 300 average. I don't even, to be honest, if you don't get Arenado Rendon, it's not that big of a deal because you got Devers, and I haven't even talked about a certain someone on the Astros just yet. Third base definitely has a number of guys that you can work with, and you cannot go wrong. At number 20, and man, I can't believe it's 20, and I haven't mentioned this guy yet. Javier Baez of the Cubs. Depending on your league, if it's focused more on base percentage, then yes, you're going to take a hit with Baez because he doesn't walk a ton. But you want 30 bombs, 100 RBIs, 100 runs scored, and he's got shortstop eligibility. What is there not to like about Javi Baez? This is pretty much a lock, and he's still going to get you steals in the teens. 12 would be the low range of steals for Javi Baez. He could easily hit 20 as well, but mid-teens would be a fair expectation for steals for Baez, and there's not much wrong you can say with Javi Baez. I don't know what else you want to say. But 20, I got Javier Baez. At number 21, Xander Bogaerts of the Red Sox, another shortstop, and let me just say, another guy who can hit 30 bombs and hit for 300 average. The only knock on him is the fact that he's not going to have as many steals, so that's why you're going to take Baez ahead of him. But there's not much to complain about when you got a guy who's going to be featured even more now in the Red Sox offense with Mookie Betts gone. I think between Jay Diesel and Bogaerts, the Red Sox offense will still be just fine. For all the people proclaiming doom and gloom about the Red Sox, they're still going to be in it as long as they have healthy enough pitching, which is a big if because the whole Chris Sale situation looks more and more like he's going to be shut down for the entire year. But that's neither here nor there. We're just talking about fantasy projection wise, but Bogaerts, it's not. I just don't see how someone's going to be negative on him. Moving on, we've got 22, and we've got Matt Olson. Another guy I'm ranking ahead of Alex Bregman. Matt Olson basically is a guy who can hit for 30 bombs and steal 20 bags and plays a corner position. I mean, actually, I said to steal. I said if he could steal 20 bags, he'd be corner position. Basically, this is I would say for Matt Olson, the difference between Matt Olson and Acuna, I should say, is the fact that he can't steal 20 bags. If he could steal 20 bags, he'd be the number one pick. He can't, but he'll hit. He could hit for 30 plus bombs and get close to 40 bombs and hit for a near 300 average. If he could steal bags, he'd be closer to Acuna than anyone else with his potential. But again, I don't think I'm even remotely concerned about anything with Olsen. Like hand injury was a fluke thing. I mean, I'm not going to worry about that. He should be fully fine and healthy to play this year. 22, Matt Olson, no complaints. 23, and now we finally get to Alex Bregman. Listen, Alex Bregman could be a top 5 pick in your league draft. Technically, it's not the craziest thing in the world. But, and let me just say this with a caveat. In case anyone forgot what was going on, the Houston Astros are guilty of the biggest cheating scandal of the last 100 years in baseball. I don't think I can be any clearer than that. So, with that being said, why would I risk taking that high of a pick on a guy I know is going to be used as a human piñata by major league pitchers throughout the year? I don't see how Bregman doesn't go on the DL a couple of times from a guy drilling him. To me, this is a no-brainer avoid. I'm ranking Bregman 23rd mainly because of his talent, but man, oh man, I don't want any piece of Astros this year. Like, outside of Altuve, they're pretty much going to get drilled because everyone seems to acknowledge that Altuve may not have had involvement. Not that it's really believed. Still think he's going to get hit. Bregman, I know, is going to get hit because he's annoying as hell. Nobody likes him. And again, the Astros are guilty as hell. So, what do you want me to say? There's a very real chance that he goes on an extended DL stint or two this season. So, I'm avoiding him. I'm ranking him 23rd. But realistically, if I own Alex Bregman in a fantasy baseball league, I'm going to hate myself. Because I'm just going to be looking over my shoulder the entire year for when he goes on the DL because somebody wanted to throw at him, or he got into a bench clearing brawl and got himself hurt. There's too many downsides to Alex Bregman this year to even contemplate him, in my opinion. So I'm going to take a pass. All right, number 24, Adalberto Mondesi. Basically, Mondesi has so much talent he has the potential to hit 20 bombs. If he hits 20 bombs with his speed and athleticism, he could steal 50 bags. That puts him in Trey Turner category. If he gets in Trey Turner category and you can get him in the second round, basically it's the same logic as why you would draft Trey Turner, except you can get him in the second round. And realistically, most people probably aren't even touching him until the third round. So, again, I'm just saying, when you're trying to win fantasy leagues, you got to find the guys that are going to excel stealing bases because they're at such a premium these days. When you find one of them, grab them, and think about figure out how to plan out the rest of your roster later. Because if you don't grab the speed guy, there's just not enough speed left in the league with managers willing to green light guys because of sabermetrics and worrying about running into an out. That too many managers are scared to have guys that aren't elite burners on the base pass stealing bases. So Mondesi, I think it is a lock. Kansas City's not a great team. Mike Matheny's tends to be conservative as a manager, but with Mondesi's athleticism and speed, I think he easily steals 40 bags, probably steals 50, and if he's in the teens to 20 home run range, you got a top 10 player. It's that simple. And rounding out the top 25, we have Jacob deGrom. Basically, deGrom didn't have the monster year that he's had in years past, but he's still going to be a beast. Still pitches in the National League, still going to have a sub-3 ERA, probably should have a whip under 1. Will throw for, 250 plus innings, have a great strikeout ratio, Ks per 9 innings. Like, realistically, if you can have a guy that can idiot-proof the Mets, it'd be Jacob deGrom. Now, will he get as many wins as he should? No, because the bullpen still kind of sucks for the Mets. But for leagues that have quality starts and whatnot, you could do far worse than Jacob deGrom. It'll work itself out in spades, in my opinion. So, that's where I kind of look at it in terms of if you want to start grabbing your aces, now's the time to do so. I wouldn't necessarily do it for Cole because of, it kind of takes you out of getting one of the elite sluggers or speed guys. But to start the third round, yeah, grabbing deGrom, I'm not opposed to it. I think it makes sense. Obviously, it changes if it's an NL-only league or something of that nature, but deGrom makes a ton of sense, hence the reason why he's ranked at number 25. So, that does it for the top 25 rankings for fantasy baseball that I have. I'll start working through the remainder of the list in the coming days or so, and we'll keep moving from there. But that's all for now, folks. Have a good one, and best of luck to you in your drafts that will be coming out anytime now. So, anyway, take it easy, folks.